Hi, welcome to the Howell Business Beat, your go-to source for insights from the heart of Howell's business community. I'm Janelle Smith, president of the Howell Area Chamber of Commerce, today's show host, joined by my co-host, Dianne Samples. Welcome, Dianne.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Excited to be here this morning.
Right. Well, we dive into the world of entrepreneurship, innovation, talent, workforce trends, leadership, all of the above. And today we have a very special guest joining us, Caryn Bedford with Caryn Bedford Consulting. Welcome, Caryn.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here and talk with you about my background and my passion for this, all the things you talked about.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you here as it relates to a lot of different things. But before we start and kick off today's episode, I would love for you to just share a little bit about who you are, what is Caryn Bedford Consulting, how you came, what was that journey that took you there?
Well, I live on the west side of Lansing right now, and about a couple years ago is when I formed my company, Caryn Bedford Consulting. But it's been decades in the making, really. And a number of different things that I've done to really kind of bring me to this. I started out in university administration and working with students at Michigan State University. And throughout the years, I've done a lot of things related to career and professional development, leadership development, talent management, all of those kinds of things.
What drew you in? There was the common thread as we were chatting a little bit before the show started of just the consistent emphasis on development and growth. And I'm just curious, if that was always a passion of yours or how you came to figure that out.
Well, it really started when I went away to college. I was like, what am I going to be? And at first I thought I wanted to be a teacher, but they were like, there's going to be an oversupply of teachers, it's going to be hard to get a job. And so then I was like, what am I interested in? And so I got my bachelor's in psychology. And I thought, well, I think that's interesting. I kind of want to figure out why people do what they do, and maybe that will help me. And, and I, want to work with, people in development. So I just went along in that regard. And then I thought, well, they said, you really, to be a psychologist, you have to go to grad school. So, so then I was like, okay. But I kind of, along the way, I was like, where are my advisors? Who's going to lead me along that path of my career development? And I didn't have those role models in my family. So it just really drew me into that initially when I got into, actually as a career advisor. It was my first job after grad school. And so that's really what drew me into that. And I've just all along, my heart goes out to anybody who's in like a career transition or they're wanting to develop themselves as a leader and move forward in their career path.
That's amazing. I think that that's really unique. I think that that's really, it's atypical, in my opinion, that we have somebody on the show that talks a little bit about their career journey, and it's there's just that really very defined thread throughout that journey. So that's very exciting to see you kind of move into your passion and your purpose and stay true to that throughout your journey. And now today with Caryn Bedford Consulting. So can you tell us a little bit about your consulting or company?
Yeah. So with my business, I focus on the training and coaching predominantly. Became a certified coach when I worked at one of my employers. We saw a real need for internal coaching for leaders, and so they sent me to a program through the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. Based out in New Jersey, and it was wonderful. It was actually transformational for myself. It helped me really grow as an individual, and now I use what I learned through that in my business. And in addition to that, I've always done training. Like when I worked at Michigan State University in career services, how to write a resume, how to do an informational interview, lots of workshops. And then in a number of my jobs, supervision, being a first-time manager, supervisor of others, leading groups, all of that. So I took a lot of that and I thought, I love to do these things. I'd love to be in a role where I can bring this expertise to a wide variety of clients, because that's another thread in all of my work is variety. I love being able to, assist this organization with this aspect of talent development. I love to, work with that. And so, so when I thought about, what I wanted to do at this stage of my career, I thought, being an independent consultant would really match up with my passion.
Awesome. It's really exciting stuff.
It is. So I'm always curious because I've always done a lot of training, but where is that significant difference between training and that coaching? Because I know there's one-on-one coaching, but there's also group coaching. So where does that differential factor come in if someone's trying to figure out, do I go the training route? Do I go personal coaching?
Well, training is a lot about sharing your expertise and knowledge with others in some type of format, in a group setting often. It could be one-on-one. There's a lot of on-the-job one-on-one training, but it's typically in a group scenario. And but with coaching is often one-on-one, although as you mentioned, it could be team. But coaching is more of drawing out what people already know, and helping people identify, their goals. Sometimes they have an idea of what their goals are and aren't really sure how to get there, or see all the obstacles, a lack of time or a lack of money, or, not necessarily knowing how to get to their goal. Maybe they tried it before and it didn't, all of those things. And so my coaching practice is more about asking empowering questions and helping clients figure that out and going deep, not just looking at the surface things that might be challenging and obstacles, but really what's going on inside that might block somebody from really achieving what they want to achieve. So they're different approaches, but they're still, training and coaching are both focused on moving forward, on learning either about yourself or about others, developing your skills and abilities and really moving forward.
I love that. That was a great question.
Well, that's a great explanation too, because I think there's, in that coaching, it sounds like there's a little bit more of that problem solving, or kind of how to manage those hurdles that people see in front of them, whether they're truly there or more self-imposed.
Well, and I think it's like what resonated with me is it's going within and figuring out what are those barriers that are really holding you back. Because I think sometimes we don't realize that, our self-limiting beliefs are sometimes our biggest hurdles, or some of the things that are happening in the inside, and how that's translates to the work environment, or different things. I think even when we had Cindy on and we were talking about just some of knowing your triggers, understanding where some of these things are coming from, to be a better version of you.
In fact, that's going to be the focus of our next Leadership Livingston, is on coaching skills for leaders. Because I think as a leader, often we're in the same position. You have knowledge that you want to share with the people that you lead, and you want to, mentor others and bring them up. And often it's a telling approach. But when you're coaching, it's that asking, and it's kind of bringing out the knowledge and the wisdom that people already possess, and helping them with their confidence and abilities that way. So we're going to be talking about coaching skills and helping people be aware of not only limiting beliefs, but assumptions that people make, or interpretations, or another area that we talk about in the IPEC coaching world called gremlins. And gremlins are that little thing that, kind of rears its head and says that you're not good enough, or strong enough, or smart enough, or whatever it is.
Does Brene Brown use that same terminology? I don't know if you're familiar with Brene Brown, but she talks about gremlins all the time.
Does she?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah.
Or frequently anyway. That's where I've heard that word.
Well,
before.
I love Brene Brown actually, and I have utilized her TEDx talks on vulnerability and how important it is to really, be brave, have the courage to let yourself be vulnerable and to be real and genuine with people, and how far that will enable you to go.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm a huge Brene Brown fan, but
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And I know you yourself are also, not only do you teach and coach and do all of these different things, but you're also a lifelong learner.
Oh, yeah.
She's always doing something new.
Well, you have to be, especially I think in your position. I mean, you have to be able to. Everything evolves and people evolve, and to be able to adapt and kind of have those experiences to share.
Yeah, and I'm always talking about that. I'm always looking for the next certification or the next webinar, and so the certifications that I have from that I received in the past require you to keep those. Like, I have a certification as a SPHR, a senior professional in human resources. And so every 3 years I have to, provide them with all the things. And I love doing that. It's easy for me because I'm always, learning new aspects. And recently I pursued a certificate as a diversity coach because I felt like I want to keep, my awareness, at a certain level. And so I went through a 10-week program on coaching around the topic of diversity. So that was really enriching for me as well.
Right. And I feel like you were able to pull some of those elements into our last Leadership Livingston discussion that we had in our last session. And so to kind of shifting the conversation over to Leadership Livingston, we're so grateful to have somebody kind of leading this charge and facilitating it that with so much expertise and knowledge. And so I would love for you to share, Caryn, your experience thus far with Leadership Livingston. And we'll dig into it a little bit more.
Well, it's been refreshing for me to work with 3 chambers in the Chamber Alliance and to, really reach out to, we have 20 participants in the program this year, wide variety of organizations that are represented there.
It is a very diverse group, and it's really interesting to see how everybody is so different and unique, and the different attributes that they're bringing to the discussion. I would say that it's a very engaged group as well, which has been a lot of fun from where I sit. And you mentioned the chamber partners, so all of the chamber directors are going through the program as well. This year, it's our first relaunch, and we've redone everything, working with you and the guests that we're bringing in, and it's been, I think incredibly rewarding from that standpoint, but just incredibly grateful for our partners and yourself to be able to bring this to the up and coming leaders here in Livingston County. So it is exciting. I will share. So one of the first sessions that we did was the DISC assessment and the Strengths Finders assessment. And one of the things that really resonated with me in that session was the DISC piece of it, and how there's no wrong way. In one personality doesn't make you a better leader or a lesser leader.
Right.
It's being aware of those leadership strengths and how to leverage them to work with each other. So I know you said it in a much more concise way, and maybe I got it wrong, but it was something that really resonated with me.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay.
I was like, what a great recap, and that it resonated with you. And I have seen it resonate with other participants as well. And we got an endorsement from one of the panelists.
Oh, yes. Oh, that was
week.
too funny. Yes.
She highly recommended everybody take DISC, and they're like, check.
Courtney Turner. She's the president of the Howell School Board.
Yeah.
And she came in to share a little bit about her role as a school board member. But the first thing she shared was, everybody take your DISC assessment. I highly recommend it. I'm like, done, check.
And that's one of the things that happened along the way too, that enabled me to do my work, was to get certified as a trainer with DISC. And so it's a behavioral assessment that anybody can take, and it really does emphasize that all styles are equally valuable, and it's actually essential for any organization to have folks kind of represented amongst all those styles. And when I first worked at Michigan State, they used it as a diversity tool to kind of appreciate people from, whatever style they have and whatever they bring to the table. So that has been instrumental, and I'm weaving it through the rest of the program so that people, this last one was like, how does your individual style impact the organization on a macro level? And we're also weaving Strengths Finder through the program. And I like how the objective has been to mix content on leadership that I get to teach with examples of leadership from the community, and really having people from the community that participants are exposed to through presentations and through panel discussions. And then we're going to do some tours coming up. So I really like the design of the program.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. It's cool to see it all come to fruition, and just to see some, how some of these leaders share their experiences and why they got involved or why they got engaged and how. I mean, I think that's sometimes like a big question in people's mind, like, well, how would I ever, run for school board, or why would I ever run for school board, or, but that's really vital to the success of our overall communities, is to have an engaged community. So bringing in that civic component, but also, like you said, making sure that we've got a large emphasis and focus on developing the individuals as leaders themselves.
Well, you guys are making me all excited to take it.
I know. I was going to say, Diane's going to go through this year.
Well,
hopefully.
Well, because prior to COVID, like right in 2019, when I had first hired in the chamber, we had talked about it because they were going to start one in 2020, and then COVID had hit. So everything kind of, we all know what happened with COVID. So yeah, so it's exciting. It's but it's nice to hear this version of it, because I've talked to a few people that are going through it, and their excitement has a different perspective. So to kind of get that inside scoop on it, it's I do think it's really valuable. And you were talking about the DISC assessment. I come from a corporate background years ago, and I don't know how long the DISC assessment has been around. So
70 years.
Okay, because I was going to say we did something very similar. I don't remember if it was called the DISC assessment or not. So that's why I didn't know if it was newer.
There's a lot of similar ones.
But that was always every applicant, anytime I interviewed anyone that ever applied, had to go through a DISC assessment. And that was in banking, in the financial world. So that has always been used.
Yeah, and so people will use it to just through an interview process sometimes to learn a little bit more about candidates, but also as a developmental tool. And so I just think self-awareness is really important. And there's lots of different similar assessments out there, but it's always been a part of my coaching and my training is self-awareness. And so whatever people use to gain that is really critical as you step into any kind of leadership role. And that, when you're leading others, it's either you'll gain that self-awareness on your own, but the people you lead will also help you to be more self-aware at the same time. So
I feel like that, maybe it's totally off topic, but I feel like that's also very true with children. Like, like your children create like a totally next level of like self-awareness, at least in my experience, we're not raising them, they're raising us. Like, it's wild.
Sure does. And that's actually, I was a single mom for 10 years. And I had to step out of my comfort zone of what style I typically like, and I had to actually exert a whole different kind of style, in order to manage that. So it's the same kind of thing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, and it is kind of like being a CEO or a leader within an organization, because every child is different. So you can't use the same approach
No. Just because it works
across
for
the
one.
board.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it doesn't
You
work
have to
for
be able
others,
to individualize that and pick up on those different nuances with each
and modify your
kid.
style. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about where we're at with Leadership Livingston and where we're going.
Are we about halfway through? We've had 3 sessions so far.
3 sessions. There's 7 altogether.
So almost about halfway there. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think also gaining feedback, as you said, a couple people I've talked to about it, they went through it, but gaining feedback and kind of learning from them as we have, relaunched this and done it in a different way than the past, but getting feedback from the participants so that we can take it even to another level for the future.
Well, I think that's the overall goal too. So I know we've got some really exciting sessions coming up. I think all of the sessions have been wonderful thus far. But like, I know that we're looking at planning an after hours networking event after one of the next.
Okay.
So really looking at ways that not only this cohort can grow, through some of the leadership development components that we've incorporated into the program and, the ties that we're creating through the community, but also with each other and forming deeper connections on a more personal level with each other. So bringing that component into it and then
Love that
keeping,
idea.
right, exactly. So, and then we want to keep this cohort engaged. So working with them to do an alumni night. So the next time around, we'll, invite some alumni to do some networking and then really seeing how we can tailor that into more of a mentorship program, even so. So I think that there's endless and ample opportunities with Leadership Livingston as we continue to grow the program itself. So really looking forward to our second cohort and expanding it.
Yes, and I've talked to people who've been through other similar kinds of programs with other communities, and they've met people in the program that they have kept in touch with for years after, and it's become part of their network, part of their professional colleagues, their go-to people when they're just kind of, wanting some peer advice and all of that. So I think that that is a huge benefit coming out of, Leadership Livingston.
Yeah, I would agree. I just think that, having those individuals that you can lean on, serve as like your sounding board or your voice of reason. Sometimes, you just need somebody to talk to, and somebody that will understand. And so we're really hoping to cultivate those deeper connections. It'll be great to see how this next cohort goes around. I know that we're launching applications in the next month or so. So the program is application, you submit one, and then it's reviewed in the early spring, and then the second round will kick off in the fall again. So really looking forward to wrapping up our first cohort and bringing in the next one.
That's exciting. And I think that hopefully we can get maybe some testimonials from the current participants and really generate that enthusiasm for the next class.
Yeah, I agree. And, from the standpoint of like individuals that may be considering, right, applying for this and what that looks like. I really think that if you're somebody that's interested in kind of going to that next level within your organization or just looking for opportunities for growth within your own career or personal development, I think this is a perfect program for you, but also really understanding the makeup of Livingston County and, some of the resources that we have to offer, some of the nonprofit groups that are here. But what we've done, I think, our partners at the Greater Brighton Chamber and the Heartland Area Chamber, is we really made sure that we're aware that this program is something that people can do while working. It's one day a month, even cognizant of your time, as far as it kicks off at a soft start at 9, but really content starts at 9:30. The entire day is wrapped up by 3. So, if you need to go back to work afterwards to get through some emails or get some things done, I mean, it is designed for the working individual, the parent, all of those things. So, and it's like Caryn said, there's 7 sessions from, I think, is it October?
We started it off October, November. We didn't meet in December.
That's right.
Because of,
all the things. Yeah.
But yeah. And then, continuing on through till spring.
I think it wraps up in May.
Yes. I think graduation will be in May.
Yeah.
So.
And the other thing though, that I've noticed when you think about, who is this for? We have people who are like thinking about being a leader as well as seasoned leaders and everywhere in between. And I actually really like that because I like to draw upon the knowledge of the people in the room too. And that's been my style as a trainer, is to facilitate, teach a little, share a little information, but then generate those conversations with people in the room so that others can also share some of their knowledge and expertise.
Right. And I think you do a fantastic job of that. It's been fun to hear other people's stories too. And I just even think like, Charla on our team at the Chamber, it's so funny. She's just got such a diverse background with owning her own business and then being a nurse and then going to a chamber and all of these different things. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question because I guess I've never thought to ask this. Is there an age limit as far as, I mean, we're fortunate enough to have, a university. We have campuses and hubs for some of our community colleges. Is there an age limit on who can attend?
I think we said 18.
18? Okay, so that could encompass even higher ed students maybe looking to form those relationships and kind of get a jump start on their leadership skills and how to really develop those.
And building their network.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I think is undervalued, even more so now, is the whole networking piece. It's so critical. It's so critical is just building relationships with people. And so this is a great opportunity, whether you work, from home, whether you're in a hybrid or completely on site. It's really, really a wonderful way to build that network.
Yes, I agree. So on graduation day, we'll be having a little ceremony, and all of our participants will receive a certificate of completion for the program. And it's been a fantastic journey thus far, and we're really looking forward to graduating our first cohort and kicking off the next session. But I'm going to ask Dianne a question and put you on the spot. But so you've been sitting here, you listen to Caryn and I talk a little bit. I'm going through the program. Caryn's facilitating it. You're hopefully going to be going through the program. What's one question or something that maybe you could think of that we haven't discussed yet today that you would really like to know before jumping in? And I'm totally putting you on the spot. So if you can't think of anything, that's okay.
I guess you touched a little bit on the different industries and the diversity that's within the group. And how do you think that really kind of helps the emerging leaders kind of develop and grow their leadership ability within their own organizations, knowing that there's so many different personalities and different backgrounds coming together?
Well, I think it's really insightful to look at how some of the concepts, the leadership concepts, apply to a small, nonprofit versus a large, corporate type entity or somewhere in between, and to really kind of look at what are the common threads. How does this concept related to the difference between being a leader and a boss? Or the 7 different leadership styles, which style is going to be most effective in our culture.
And the reason I ask that is because I know sometimes, again, kind of pulling from my corporate background, is people or organizations, when they're thinking of personal development, sometimes tend to pigeonhole people and think, okay, well, how does this relate to finances? Or how does this relate to education? Or how does this relate to healthcare, depending on whatever industry you're in. Yeah. So sometimes if it's not something directly related to their industry, they don't necessarily always see the value in that.
It's hard to make the connection.
It is. And to maybe to justify, the time that the employees will be away from the team or however they need to justify that. But again, realizing that diversity helps them gain those different perspectives.
Well, I think that it does help too, because my background has been in a wide variety of areas. And so it's helpful for me to know how to translate. Like, I remember I took some kind of assessment and it only talked about the world of manufacturing. And at that time I had not been exposed to it. And it was hard for me to even answer the questions on the assessment. But I think that variety that I've had, I've worked at a place which they had 5 lines of business, and one was manufacturing, one was warehousing, another was, like custodial work, farming, all, and then call centers. Worked in a financial services firm. I worked for a statewide association. Worked in higher education. So just having that diversity, and then knowing how to draw that out from the people in the room, and using those good coaching questions. Well, how do you think this applies to you?
Well, I have one other question too.
Yeah, and way to go! Like, it's just, I knew you could get it.
Start rapid fire here. But is there homework?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Is it something that I'm going to So you're going through it, and like you said, then you're going back to the office for a couple hours to get those emails. Then you're going home to your kids, and then you have 4 more weeks, and
Yes.
you have to complete this, or this.
The only thing that we had required outside of the program so far was to take those assessments on their own time, and they took both the DISC and the Strengths Finder. And but I also ask people to think about, how does this content apply, and then apply it to their job. So it's not like it's homework per se, but it's like take these
Reflection.
things, apply it to what you're doing, on the job, and then come back and tell us about it.
So it's that challenge to put it into practice.
Exactly.
But that's a great question, because I do think that that's something, again, as we were developing the program, we really wanted to be cognizant of, because we also understand the challenge of people's time and how precious that is. So, and I do think that from the standpoint of where I've been sitting and going through it, it's been fantastic to take some of those things away and put them into practice. And I think it's even, it's just funny because Charla is also going through it, and she's in our office. So to see some of the things, and she'll be like, oh yeah, to see some of the, those light bulbs go off for her has been kind of fun too. While we're outside of the sessions, and then seeing that come back. So that's been fun.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
It's funny. She loves bringing it up and talking about the DISC and different things. And
Yes.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's wonderful. So we are really excited, Caryn. This has been fantastic. It's been a pleasure working with you. We're looking forward to kicking off cohort 2, and we'll hopefully have the application linked to the podcast here.
Okay.
So
Wow,
yeah.
that's great. I'm excited to see who is going to apply and, kind of jump into the mix for the next year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We hope that you'll consider being a part of our next cohort. And until next time, we'll catch you on the Howell Business Beat.